Alright guys, there might be some changes coming to the NFL playoffs. So Adam Schefter tweeted out the details last night. He wrote the following: NFL playoff structure is about to be changed. Under the current CBA proposal, 7 teams from each conference will make the playoffs, with only bye per conference. Sources tell ESPN it would be going into effect this upcoming season. So when this was reported, I was surprised the amount of negative responses it got. People were really upset. And yes, I understand the argument of, the NFL playoff, it's great, it works well, why change it? But personally, I'm never going to complain about more football and a better chance for my team or my favorite team to make the playoffs. Maybe that's because I'm a Giants fan, so it's like, we need as many teams as possible in the playoffs to have a chance to make it. If you're a Patriots fan or a Chiefs fan, you might feel a little differently about this. But, I still do have a little bit of mixed feelings about it because the bye, specifically the bye, and I think that's where a lot of people have concern because it's one bye per conference. Like, that's interesting. But the thing is this, having a bye isn't a sure thing. It's never like, oh, you're definitely gonna win the game that you play first. What happened with the Ravens this year? What happened? They lost, and they looked terrible coming out of their bye. And yeah, that might have been because, they rested starters at the end of the regular season. That could have had something to do with it. But I feel like almost every year, or close to every year, we see a team struggle after their bye week. A high seed struggle after their bye week. It's about, finding that balance of making sure your players aren't hurt, not having to play them after you've clinched or having to play them excessively after you clinched, but making sure they're ready. And I think that's always a hard balance to find. And I think that's where good coaching, I guess, comes into play, with the Patriots and everything, how they have been able to execute in past years and all of that. But, that was an example, obviously, of maybe the bye having a negative effect because, the Ravens, they just looked like a totally different team during the playoffs than they did during the regular season. But, the Chiefs were a team this past season, to be specific, that I think a bye in the playoffs really helped them. Patrick Mahomes was banged up throughout the year, and then he was playing well, obviously, during the season through the injuries and all of that, how he dislocated his knee on the field, got it popped back in, all of that. It's crazy how he was able to, bounce back from that. But after that bye week, in the playoffs, he was just on another level. So yeah, I think that's an instance where the bye helped. But I think the bye is tricky. Like I said before, it's never a sure thing. And I think having one, bye per conference is going to make just the whole playoff so much more upset prone, I guess. I mean, obviously adding more teams, you're going to have the higher chance for upsets. The playoffs, they were crazy last year. I mean, look at what happened with the Titans and the run they went on. Imagine adding 2 more teams now to that. Maybe a team that had been hot towards the end of the year, but had a bad start to the season, now has the ability to make the playoffs. They could go and possibly make the Super Bowl. So I'm all for more football. I'm all for craziness. I love a crazy playoff like we had this past season. Who doesn't? If you're a Patriots fan, you probably don't like that. But the concern is injuries. I've heard there's also talks of adding another game. I think that wouldn't be for 2 years. I don't think it would be this next year. But, we don't want players getting injured. Nobody wants players getting injured. I honestly am not a big fan of Thursday Night Football because of that short turnaround time. So I hope the cut down of a bye week doesn't, show us more injuries, more players getting hurt. And yeah, that's always a concern, player health. You always want the players to be healthy and, everything. And yeah, Thursday Night Football, that could be a whole nother video of the short turnaround time on that and, all what the players are saying about that. But if this happens, I think it's going to make the playoffs absolutely wild, and it should be really interesting to watch. Does it mean the Giants are going to make the playoffs next year? I don't know. It depends on what happens in the offseason. Who really knows? But does it make me more hopeful heading into next season if this new format does happen? Of course. I mean, any fan, I think, has more hope going into the season and throughout the season. Because, even last season, Giants fans are like, oh, maybe they make the playoffs after the terrible start. Like, oh, maybe they go on a run. I feel like that happens every single season with the Giants. So with this format, I mean, people are definitely going to be watching more games and, you know, having that hope. That's it for this video, guys. Make sure to drop a like, comment down below, and subscribe. Peace out.